Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and welcome back to day number 22 of March Madness. Today's page map sketch comes from January of 2023. I pulled out the Dog Dash kit from Kellybell Designs, and these are the pieces I'm going to be using. A majority of the pieces came from the kit, which is in the center. Over to the left, you can see the snippets that I pulled, and over to the right, you can see the flare that I pulled. This was such a fun kit to work with. I love the Slinky Dog Dash ride, and today I'm going to be documenting some photos of my friend and her daughter when we were at Hollywood Studios. So this was the first time that she got to ride Slinky Dog. I decided to use a red as a background, so I'm going through all of my red, and regardless of whether I pick out the perfect color, which you can see that up in the upper left hand side, I still feel like I have to go through all of my colors just to make sure that there's not another perfect color that works better. Do you guys ever do that? Do you feel like you have a color but you have to keep looking to see if there's a better color? So I'm going to be able to get all of these embellishments cut out with 2 sheets of paper. I do use the Silhouette Studio to design my layouts, and then I use the print and cut features on the Silhouette to cut out all of the embellishments. I do like to ink up the edges if I do not have a shadow on my image, just to make sure that there's no white showing from the cutouts. For those fire images, I did have to mirror one of them so that I could have it going in the opposite direction, and I will tell you that I just love the way that that turned out. The colors in this collection are so vibrant, and I feel like it's just so bright with those primary colors, especially the red, the blue, the green, and the orange. Now that I got all of the embellishments cut out as well as inked up, I'm going to go ahead and put this layout together. I'm going to start with this yellow star paper. I did print a full 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I'm going to cut it in half so that I can add it to the top and bottom of the layout. I'm also going to use this blue polka dotted paper, which I did cut out 2 sheets of that so that I can span it across both sides of the layout. I also have this spring paper, which I think is super adorable. It represents Slinky Dog so well. I'm trying to decide how long I need to cut it. If you watched yesterday's video, you know that I struggled with my paper a lot. So before I even cut it, I was measuring with my T-square ruler probably 3 or 4 times. I know you're supposed to measure twice and cut once. I was measuring like 3 or 4 times and trying to only cut once. But I did finally get it down. I did decide that I wanted to ink the edges of my paper. When I'm using a non-digital collection, I usually tend to ink the edges of the paper with a specific color that maybe matches the entire collection, usually a black or a gray. But when I'm inking the edges of my digital collections, I want to ink them the same color as the paper. I feel like it just gives it an extra depth. I'm having so many issues with my trimmer because it is so dirty. It needs to be cleaned so bad. There's so much adhesive on the side of it from me cutting things out with adhesive on it. I just need to spend the time to actually clean it so that I can get some nice clean cuts again. For this particular layout, I ended up having to pull out my sanding tool because the edges of the paper were rough. Once I got the yellow paper down, I'm then going to go ahead and add the blue paper. Like I said, these photos are from when we visited Hollywood Studios with my friend and her daughter. This was the same day as the Frozen sing-along. My friend Christina had gone off somewhere, I'm not exactly sure where, and we were kind of waiting for her. And as we were waiting for her, I noticed a photo photographer, so I was like, oh, let's go take some pictures in front of the sign. And so we were able to get some really fun pictures of us. We even got a magic shot, which is the one that's over on the far left, and you can see it with the army guy there, and we're pointing and looking up at him. And then over on the right hand side, I'm going to be adding photos of us actually on the Slinky Dog ride. This was her first time riding it, and she had so much fun. And we actually got pixie-dusted at the end. When we were about to get off, the cast member asked if we wanted to ride it again. My friend Christina did not ride it. She has some issues with big roller coasters and not being able to handle them, so it was just me and her on the ride. And when the cast member asked us if we wanted to ride it again, I looked at her and the smile on her face said it all, and we were like, absolutely. So I just signaled to my friend that we were riding it again, and she was like, all right, cool, and gave us a big thumbs up. So we got to ride it 2 times in a row. I did take a selfie of us on the ride, and so that's going to go flat to the layout. And then I am going to bring in a flip flap so that I can add 2 additional photos. The one photo is the actual ride photo, and then on the back of the flip flap I'm going to use a stock photo that is from my PhotoPass of the Slinky Dog ride. So I'm going to get it added to the flip flap and show you guys that I'm going to turn it off to the right, but I am going to change that out later on because I decided to add this kind of large embellishment over to the right hand side. These are the go signs that are right before the ride takes off. When I saw those go signs, I immediately knew that I wanted to have them in 3 different sizes, getting smaller as they went down, so that it looks as if you are sitting on the ride. When you are sitting on the ride, I feel like this is exactly what the go signs look like. The very first go sign that you see is the green one, and then if you look further out, you can see the yellow one, there's also an orange one, and then the last one is the red one. By making them the 3 different sizes, it's almost if you are looking into it as if it's a tunnel. And I love the way that that perspective turned out on my layout. I did decide to add a Slinky Dog to the front of it, kind of mimicking the Slinky Dog ride as if the Slinky Dog is going into the tunnel. Obviously, I can't do that same perspective with the Slinky Dog, but having him right next to it, I feel like does give you that same effect. Now, I did design this layout in Silhouette Studios, so you can see that my clusters are coming together pretty quickly. I do have a picture of the image that I designed in Silhouette off to the right, and I'm referring to it. I'm really just adding my embellishments where they are in that picture. When you do design it on Silhouette Studios, it's not going to be perfect, and you do have to mess around with it. So you can see when I'm working in that top cluster that I had to move it over a little bit to make sure that I fit that phrase kid-friendly. Once I got everything in the position that is pretty close to what I designed in Silhouette Studio, I decided to go ahead and start adhering everything down. I first started with the Slinky Dog. I did put that up on Fun Foam to give it a little bit of dimension. And then my title is going to be Slinky Dog Fun. The actual Slinky Dog does come from the flare, and then the blocks that spell out fun actually came from the main kit. I did decide to put those blocks up on Fun Foam and then added the Slinky Dog title down flat to the layout. The dimension that added with the go signs underneath it really makes the word fun stand out. I also have this spring that I brought up to the top, and I feel like connecting the K in Slinky and the G in dog really tied that title together. Over on the left-hand side, I do feel like that flag is a little large, but I actually like the way that it looks. I think I've said this in another video. I'm enjoying the fact that I am able to print out larger embellishments. Sometimes I feel like the embellishments that come with the collections are a little bit small, and I feel like I have to use quite a few of them. Whereas these are a little bit larger, and even though I'm not using as many as embellishments, it's taking up more space on my layout, thus providing a larger interest piece. For the florals, I did decide to curl up the edges and add some foam adhesive squares to each one of the petals. For the green one, I added a foam adhesive to the back of all of them. For the orange one, I actually ended up cutting that one in half and tucking it behind the green one. And then I actually ended up taking one of the green foam squares up so that I could add the yellow one down to the edge of it. I did print out the date square that came with the collection and decided to go ahead and date my layout before I added that down, just to make it a little bit easier on myself. I did test it out on the back of the date square before I put it on the front, just to make sure that it would be okay. And then I added a little tag that says, "Hang on tight." Then for the cluster at the top, I'm going to repeat that fire element. Like I said, I did flip this element in the Silhouette Design Studio so that I could have the fires going in different directions. I think that it almost looks like my flowers are moving so fast that they're on fire. That was not my intention, but I think that the end result actually is pretty funny. For that top cluster, I did decide to put the red flower flat to the layout, and then doing that same technique where I curled up the blue flowers and added the foam adhesive on the outside petals, using some liquid adhesive to make the center of the flower flat to the layout. I also added a yellow star, a flare that says arms up, and then also another one that says kid friendly. I did decide to pull out my wood veneer. Over on the far right hand side, I added a circle that has a star cutout. And then over on the left hand side, I added a cutout star. And then at the top, I added just a plain star. Over to the right where the Slinky Dog is, I added a little arrow pointing into the layout. And then next to my flag on the left, I decided to add 2 girl meeples. I don't get to use the girl meeples a lot because I tend to scrapbook a lot of boys. So I was like, let me put those on here so that I can actually get some of those used up. And then I also decided to add a little smiley face at the top as well. And then I pulled out my color boxes in blue and brown and added some enamel shapes around the layout. This is where I decided to flip around that foot flap so that it now opens to the left. I pulled out my pops of color. These are scrapbook.com exclusives, and this one is in the gloss clear. And I decided to add them to the center of each one of my flowers. It gives the center of the flowers obviously a gloss look, and I feel like it gives it a lot of dimension. All right, that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I hope you guys are enjoying these daily Disney layouts. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double H layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.